Love, Death, and Robots. It's a wild ride. Sci-fi, horror, and comedy packed into stunning bite-sized episodes from different studios. After 3 long years waiting in limbo, season 4 just arrived. So I binged all 4 seasons and today I'm ranking every single episode. Full spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Now let me know if I nailed it and if you agree with my points or if I don't know what I'm talking about. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts on the series in the comments. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, let's get into it. So to kick things off with season 1, we have 3 robots. This was a pretty meta commentary on the hubris of humanity. At least that's what I got from it. And the narrative backdrop of robot tourists visiting the ruins of human civilization, it was unique. And the jokes, they were landing with me for the most part. Each robot had a pretty distinct personality and they all complemented each other. So yeah, it was a really enjoyable watch and a great start to the series, a really good entry point. So I'm gonna have to put this one in I think the good stuff category. This show has some certified bangers. I don't think this is a certified banger, but it is definitely a good watch. I don't mind rewatching it. Episode 2, Sonny's Edge. The action in this one is absolutely sick. The animation is crazy. It's brutal. You have, fist fighting with these monsters like the mini kaijus. It was awesome. So the twist at the end, it was pretty neat, with Sonny revealing that her consciousness is actually inside the beast rather than her really piloting it. And obviously that brings up implications that she's actually vulnerable every fight, and that's her edge. She has like that survival instinct to her. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, the environmental design, awesome. I was definitely locked into the story the whole time, and I think it's a pretty good entry into the realistic 3D animation depth category that will pop up a lot in this series. The question is, if the human version of Sonny isn't the real thing, is she an actress? Is she a clone? Because she's obviously performing as if she is like controlling the mind of the monster. But anyway, probably goes into the B tier as well. Next episode, The Witness. I feel like this is a certified Love, Death, and Robots classic. Alberto Miogo is the GOAT of short film animation. It is quite reminiscent of the Spider-Verse animation style, and that's because Alberto Miogo, he was actually on the original team. But this is a more adult version of Spider-Verse's animation style. And I really enjoyed the twist ending after the high-speed foot chase around the whole city. I will say the strip club side quest was weird, but it honestly did fit with the gritty, campy aesthetic of the whole episode. This is definitely one of my favorites of the whole series. I don't think that it is necessarily goated, but it's definitely a certified banger. So this is our first certified banger of the series. On to episode 4, Suits. This one has pretty corny dialogue, and I kind of felt like it was an ad for a mobile app, like a mobile game. And it's sort of the first entry into the series of like fighting a horde of aliens or monsters. We'll see a lot of them. I think it has pretty decent emotional depth, but this one was really just fine to me. Really like a 5 out of 5. So I'm just gonna say, all right, I guess. I think the first time I watched it, I didn't enjoy it. Second time, I enjoyed it a little bit more, but yeah, it was all right. Episode 5, Sucker of Souls. I am curious why every monster in this series is almost the same in appearance. You'll see in this episode, they kind of look like the monsters from A Quiet Place. And this is definitely a recurring motif across the whole series. But I really like the texture of the hand-drawn style of this animation. Probably a couple too many sex jokes, but I'll say I enjoyed this episode. This one was just alright, I guess. Episode 6, When the Yogurt Took Over. So, I see what they were going for here. It's obviously a wacky, absurdist episode that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it just wasn't that funny. It did not land with me, and in retrospect, this episode sort of set the precedent for a handful of these silly because silly, funny type episodes that are just like trash. Most of the time, I'm really not into them, and I think this episode is garbage. I don't even know what else to say, so I'm putting this in unforgivable. I will not be rewatching this ever again. I had to do this rewatch for this video, and I almost could not get through the episode. It is trash. Moving on, episode 7, Beyond the Aquila Rift. This one has incredible 3D animation. Cool premise, but it could have done with more story, I think. Like, what is the motivation of the monster? Is it companionship? Is it torture? And the sex scene takes up like a pretty long portion of the runtime where things could have been explained a bit further. I just wanted more. I just didn't feel satisfied. So yeah, it was alright, you know. Episode 8, Good Hunting. I loved this slower paced episode. It's a creative idea and the steampunk aesthetic was great. It was a great crossover with traditional Chinese landscapes. I always remembered this episode from season 1 from when it first aired like many years ago. It has a mystical air that complemented its more, dark and gritty revenge plot, and I love it. It's a certified banger. It's going straight into the A tier, no questions asked. This one is like teetering on GOAT tier. We might have to come back to it. For now, we're putting it in the A tier, certified banger. Moving on, The Dump. Very fitting title. Kinda ugly, very boring. The name is very fitting. This episode is trash, bro. Unforgivable. I will not be watching the episode again. Episode 10, Shapeshifters. The werewolf fight was impressive. The animation was insane. I really liked the choreography of the fight. It was really gritty. Seeing them tear their skin off during their werewolf transformation was dope. I think the action carries the film quite a bit, to be honest. Like, that's where most of the rating goes for me on this one. Don't care too much for the actual characters, but I would like to see a Shapeshifters Part 2 if it was set in a different environment. Like, imagine the Shapeshifter sort of narrative if it was set in feudal Japan, with samurais that transform into werewolves. Like, dude, that would be a sick episode. Anyway, Shapeshifters, I think I'm gonna put this one in good stuff. I know some other people don't really like it, but for me, I can easily go back and rewatch that one. Helping Hand. Look, I'm a sucker for a good disaster in space film. Funny thing is, we spend most of the time in the protagonist's helmet in a close-up, and the animation is done so well. You really feel the dreadful emotion, and the way this short makes me cringe so hard when she snaps her arm off in the vacuum of space. Oh my gosh, bro. I think it's just a testament to how raw and intense this film is. Even after multiple watches, I still get that cringy feeling that I love watching this episode. I'm giving this easily a certified banger. Episode 12, Fish Night. This might be the most visually stunning episode of season 1. Kind of like a friendly hallucination. And I enjoyed the philosophical elements in the first half. It seemed to gear up for an interesting and emotional payoff, but then when one of the dudes gets eaten by a ghost shark and I have no clue why, then it just ends. And I feel like they were trying to say something about, mankind and death and history and whatnot, but how does the rest of the film add up to that? I thought this was going to be a happy episode, then it became dark kind of for no reason. It looks super cool though, so I'm going to put this one in alright, I guess. It really easily could have been a certified banger, but the payoff at the end is just like kind of dull. Episode 13, Lucky 13. This is actually quite a charming episode considering the high octane ship battles and war aesthetic. I really liked how the ship was personified, and that connection could be felt in the climax where Lucky 13 self-detonates to save the team. This one is solid action. I was invested. This one's just an easy certified banger, not too much else to say about it. Episode 14, Zima Blue. I don't think it's a controversial opinion that this is the greatest episode in the entire series. From the distinct angular art to the expansive, gorgeous environment. Dude, it was just perfect. Like, Zima Blue is one of those ones that it's hard to put into words. Zima Blue is one of those pieces of art that's hard to put into words because I think when you watch it, it's more like you just get this sort of feeling, and I don't even know what it is. I just remember watching Zima Blue when this show first came out in 2019, and just being like, wow, dude, what an amazing episode of TV. And I think I've been chasing that feeling ever since. This is a GOAT tier episode, the first GOAT of this series, maybe the ultimate GOAT of all time. Episode 15, Blind Spot. Very fitting title because I am not trying to see this again. Very forgettable. The dialogue in this is so childish and distractingly so. The art style is great, but you couldn't redeem this one. This one is hot ass, bro. I don't think it's as bad as the dump or the yogurt, but this is hot ass. Episode 16, Ice Age. I actually quite like this one. It's pretty cute, you know? I wish I discovered a lost civilization in my fridge. I'm glad we got to know the mini humans are aware of the giant humans outside the fridge. My headcanon is that they might consider them gods or something like that. There'd have to be cultural implications of their presence when they shut the door, right? Do they go through hundreds of years of darkness? I think that's why I like this episode, for the thought experiments that it provides. So yeah, I'm gonna put Ice Age into good stuff right near Shapeshifters. Episode 17, Alternate History. Yeah, well, it was kind of meh. I see what they were going for here, but I put it into the same category as the yogurt episode. Like, it thinks it's funnier than it really is. I appreciate the creativity though, with the butterfly effect and how it gets more ridiculous as it goes on. I think I chuckled softly maybe once, so yeah, it's probably hot ass. It's not as bad as the yogurt one, but yeah. Episode 18, The Secret War. This was the final episode of season 1, and look, I loved the intensity and the characters were actually so cool. I appreciate the quick little sacrifice backstory that we got in the middle, which added some, well-needed context to the world building of the looming threat. To me, it felt like a complete story. You really connect with the lieutenant through his unselfish leadership, and I think the payoff at the end was just right as we see the bombs raining down to destroy the Horde. This one does suffer from the A Quiet Place monster design that I was talking about, that I thought, why does every monster look the same? Especially in that realistic 3D animation death category I was talking about. But yeah, the visuals, they were still amazing. I actually really liked this episode. I think this is a certified banger. All right, moving on to season 2. Episode 1, Automated Customer Service. I feel like we've seen this idea explored a trillion times. It's pretty overdone. Not really a fan of this intentional, uglified character design too. Another one that just wasn't for me. With this being the first entry into season 2, I was a bit skeptical of what was to come. And yeah, I think that this rating is going to reflect it. This one was hot ass, bro. It was hot ass. Episode 2, Ice. Robert Valley's second entry into the series after the goated Zima Blue from season 1. It doesn't quite live up to the level of Zima Blue, but it is a pretty decent episode in its own right. I think Robert Valley's art style is becoming my favorite of the series at this point. I think the world building is quite strong. I loved seeing what the street culture is like, hearing the slang terms thrown around. It made the world feel alive and lived in. Ice race scene was quick, but had decent tension, and the visual of the whale launching into the sky, it was sick. I feel like it's sort of an icon of the whole Love, Death and Robots series. So I'm going to put Ice into certified banger. Episode 3, Pop Squad. I absolutely love this episode. And if I was ever to just catch a random episode of the series, I often return to this one. I love its dark and psychological thrill themes. The character design was great. The voice performances, they reached into my emotions. The facial work for the officer was perfect. Seeing his eyes filled with hollow regret, it really sells it to you that this is eating away at him. And the ending was so satisfying. He doesn't redeem a lifetime of unjust executions, but he has his moment of realization and defends a mother and her daughter in a shocking shift of balance. This is a certified banger, easily. Episode 4, Snow in the Desert. This is another entry into the realistic 3D action death category. The action was gripping and really visceral, and the environment was quite interesting. It reminded me of a Dune-like planet. I enjoyed the twist at the end, with Snow finding a companion after centuries alone. Nothing too complex, just an enjoyable watch. I think I'm going to put this one into good stuff. Episode 5, The Tall Grass. This one, it was a pretty simple story, and I think the highlight was the painterly animation style. Why do people always walk into the abyss out of curiosity? I wish they caught his ass for real. Look, it was a decent watch. I guess it was alright. This one, I think the animation carried it a little bit. Episode 6, All Through the House. I'll admit, I liked this episode more than anticipated. I don't even know what I expected, but I was pleasantly surprised. I loved how it ended on the kids asking each other what would happen if they were deemed bad kids. I think that was a really nice touch. Definitely showing this to my kids in the future so they don't act up. I'm going to put this one in good stuff. Episode 7, Life Hutch. Michael B. Jordan, he features in this one, which was pretty cool. But TBH, this was on the latter end of that realistic 3D death category for me. Yeah, being locked in a room with a killer robot is intense, but there just wasn't much story, and the whole spaceflight sequence that they cut back and forth to seemed irrelevant. It was honestly just okay. Yeah, it was okay. Episode 8, The Drowned Giant. I can appreciate this episode for its delivery in the form of an intelligent diary entry. Although it was filled with like a lot of platitudes, I did enjoy that we were getting taken through the life cycle of decay for the giant and how the community interacts with the body. It was quite odd how obsessed the scientist was with the giant and how he kept on saying it was alive to him. Okay, bro, like you need a hobby or something. I don't really know if I enjoyed it or not. It was at least interesting though. So I'm gonna say, I think because I'm a bit mixed on this, it's gonna go into the alright, I guess, category. On to season 3. Episode 1, 3 Robots, Exit Strategies. The sequel to the original 3 Robots in season 1. The familiar backdrop of robot tourists exploring the ruins of humanity adds an extra dark comedy layer with the revealing of the final survival efforts of those lost humans and how the rich left the poor to kill, loot, and starve each other. But their ultimate demise came from how they treated early robots. That's why I always say please and thank you to ChatGPT, I'm telling you. We get another signature serious monologue from the triangle bot that's interrupted from the small orange one who's just there for vibes. I laughed more in this one than in the original, to be honest, but damn, it's actually quite dark under the light-hearted robot jokes. I think I'm going to place this one into good stuff as well, just like, its predecessor. Episode 2, Bad Traveling. Look, I'm always down for a pirate story, but this one has a lot of character to it, and the characters specifically feel quite well emotionally constructed. In very short sentences or in their actions, we see the motivations of each character. The protagonist or the anti-hero will do whatever it takes for the greater good, and he is most certainly not above murdering the entire crew if it meant protecting Faden Island from the Monster Crab Doomsday event. My favorite scene is when, after the crew failed to assassinate the main pirate leader, only one remained, and it was revealed that everyone on the ship voted to save themselves, condemning the island. This scene was intense. I didn't see that twist coming, but it was so satisfying. Another good twist. I think this episode has the best example of like a twist done really well in the entire series. So with that, I think Bad Traveling, I don't think it's goated, but I think it is a certified banger. Oh, it's almost goated. It's not there. There's only a couple goated ones, but it is really good. Episode 3, The Very Pulse of the Machine. This is probably my second favorite episode of the entire series after Zima Blue. It's the most visually experimental. It's a full psychedelic journey through the cosmos with a poetry soundtrack. I think this is the most rewatched episode of the entire series for me over the years. Also, I may be biased because I actually already followed the artist Robert Trevino's work on Instagram for a couple years before I even saw this episode. I love seeing the rock formations twist into the women figures with all the vibrant colors, and the machine's spoken delivery really hits with the trippiness of the episode. Even though I'd say it fits into that death category, it does so in a way that is gentle and poetic rather than guns blazing. Goated episode in my opinion, it's gone right next to Zima Blue. Episode 4, Night of the Mini Dead. It's the cutest apocalypse you ever see. Honestly, I'd say the miniature style of animation is one of my favorites in the series. It provides the landscape for some unique storytelling from a bird's eye view and on a macro scale that you don't see too often. I think it allows the creators to get away with some pretty silly jokes because it's such a fun episode. The whole Independence Day callback and the America moments got a decent chuckle out of me. Outside of the 3 Robots episodes, I think this is a good entry point for new viewers. So we're gonna chuck this into good stuff. Kill Team Kill. This was a pretty stock standard bloody action short with dick jokes and other lazy attempts to entertain an adult audience with childish one-liners, but hey, if you're into that kind of thing, you'll probably like it. If it weren't for how much I appreciated the art style, I think that this would have ranked lower, honestly. This was hot ass. If the art wasn't as good, this would be unforgivable, bro. The jokes were honestly like annoying at one point. Episode 6, Swarm. This one had me excited because we got a unique alien design. I'm glad it wasn't the same design we've seen in like 5 episodes now. I really like the aspect of the race that allows the swarm to produce a cast of workers that carry out a specific role, and the line of dialogue that says something like, "We have created intelligent casts before to deal with threats like you." That gives a pretty cool backstory to the whole lore of the aliens. Definitely kind of gross to look at, but I could not take my eyes off the screen because the story was just so interesting. I'm chucking this one into good stuff. It's almost certified banger, but there's others I'd like to put in before it. Episode 7, Mason's Rats. This was a low-key banger. I didn't expect this one to be so good. I honestly thought the art was reminiscent of The Dump, and I unfairly judged the book by its cover, but it ends up being like Ratatouille, World War III in a barn, and it was sick. Not gonna lie, it was quite graphic, and seeing the rats all tactically coordinate and fight like humans was crazy. You could actually see them limping and carrying wounded soldiers like it was Hacksaw Ridge. Then the mutual respect moment between the farmer and the Rat King. Chef's kiss. I enjoyed rewatching this one for the review, 100%. I said low-key banger before, but this one is a certified banger. Episode 8, In Vaulted Halls Entombed. Bro, the action was actually pretty dope. Cool choreography of the military formation tactics mid-fight. You don't really have much story in this one until the final minute of the film, where the big Cthulhu enters the chat and starts possessing the sergeant. And the ending was kind of weird. Like, why did the woman walk out of the lair with her eyes poked out? Was she possessed to do that to herself or not? There were just some plot points that were kind of missing from this one, but it was cool to watch, so I think it's alright, I guess. It could have been better. Episode 9, Gibaro. Alberto Mielgo is straight cooking. He is sauteing with this one. The animation is insane, with all the intricate details of the jewelry. Once more, like The Witness, the signature camera angles do an amazing job of inducing this off-kilter feeling, which makes the scene when the men are forced to dance into the water all the more brutal. I love the story, and I'm glad it had a somewhat more negative ending. I enjoyed how they visualized the allegory of the lust of men, and then also the dark side of a seductress. I think the highlight of this episode was when we see the pain and anguish of the siren as she dances without her precious jewels after they were stolen by the soldier. The orchestral climax, along with the intense facial animation and seeing the soldier fall under the water, was incredible. I can't say enough about this episode. GOAT status, easily. And we made it, season 4. Episode 1, I Can't Stop. Look, I love the marionette puppet style and all the great details of the glue on their skin, the strings attached to each limb. But I feel like burning the puppet string was kind of like a Chekhov's gun, right? That never went off. Because after that moment, I thought that all the rest of the puppets would end up going up in flames. I know it's kind of dark, but I was surprised when only one puppet burned. Anyway, it was a cool detail. I love how they could fall apart and then quickly reassemble back to life and keep rocking. The cinematography was awesome. I didn't really grow up listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers myself, but all the characters, they looked familiar to me, and I feel like I need to go and listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers now. I want to see more work from this studio, but a more narrative-based project in this style I think would be really cool, because to be honest, it's essentially a glorified music video rather than an episode. I'm gonna give this one alright, I guess. It's lucky not to be in hot ass because there's literally no story in this, but it was actually just too cool. Episode 2, Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. Bro, this is just pure comedy, man. The amount of mini humans that are getting probed up their booty and wanted to, it seemed quite realistic to me actually. It was hectic. It was so typical to have the Independence Day speech with the Americans fighting back with their guns. This one, good stuff. Episode 3, Spider Rose. I am more confused than when I hit play. Look, Nosy was cute as fuck, I am more confused than when I hit play. Look, Nosy was cute as fuck, and they gave us some context as to, how the husband died. But throughout the film, we learned nothing else. Like the story didn't say anything. I'm pretty sure this one lives in the same universe as Swarm from season 3. This was a cool watch, but I actually really don't know how to rate this one. I think that makes it alright. Episode 4, 400 Boys. After Robert Trevino's previous 2 works in the series, Zima Blue and Ice Age, I was most excited about this one coming into season 4. And Robert, he is 3 for 3 after this one. The art style, obviously, it's the best in the series. I love the gritty energy and the deep voice acting performances of the cast, especially John Boyega. The jazzy backing track was almost hypnotic with the vibes. And the storyline of rallying rival gangs to face off against the bigger threat was done with so much swagger. And this one actually gets better with each rewatch. I love this one way more the second time than the first time, and I already loved it the first time. So this one, certified banger. On the edge of goated, but I don't think it's goated. That goated tier needs to be, saved for the ones that changed my life. I don't think 400 Boys changed my life, but it was sick. Episode 5, The Other Large Thing. The cat was hella funny and charming. The robot is insanely OP and the humans were ridiculously gross. Assuming this is a prequel to the 3 robots, I approve of the revolution. Really enjoyable watch. I think this is a certified banger. This is another one I thought I was gonna hate because of the gross animation, but I liked it. Episode 6, Golgotha. I didn't really care much for this episode, to be honest. This is straight trash. I will most likely never watch this episode again. I think this might be the worst episode of the entire series. This is absolutely unforgivable. If they ever make this series again and I see something like this, bro, I'm sending an email to Netflix. Episode 7, The Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. Mr. Beast was right at home hosting a ceremony of death game. It's pretty gory, but this episode was quite fun to watch. Sick action scenes flipping between the huge dinosaurs. And quite a few parallels in this one with the 6 wolves in a pack and the 6 fighters. Then the 2 lovers having to fight, parallels with the T-Rex and the main fighter teaming up in the end. It was a lot of that. It was a full numbers game. Although that change of allegiance was hella quick and kind of took me by surprise. I actually don't know if I'd put this into good stuff. I think this one was just alright. Yeah. Episode 8, How Zeke Got Religion. This reminded me of the Iron Giant, but if it were like evil Nazis summoning monsters from Indiana Jones. I was in awe of the art, especially when the monster explodes into a ball of protruding limbs. But TBH, I was hoping for a little more explanation of what the monster was or why the Nazis summoned it. Because it was mostly just a slasher and I felt like it had a good narrative potential that wasn't realized. This could have been a GOAT. Well, it's more like a 7 out of 10, which is still good. Definitely rewatchable too, but yeah, I'd say this one was good stuff. And if it had just a little bit more story, I think it could have skipped 2 levels to GOATed, but I'm gonna keep it here on good stuff. Episode 9, Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners. Upon seeing the first appliance, the thermostat, I actually chuckled because I thought, oh, this is kind of wacky and creative. The claymation style is always a plus. But after the 3rd appliance, I was just like, okay, so how long is this episode gonna be? Because it got old pretty fast. They maybe had 10 appliances and it was funny the first time and that was it. This one was straight hot ass. And the final episode of the series, episode 10, For He Can Creep. I don't know what this series' obsession with cats is, but I'll say this episode might have been the most interesting one to me. The cats literally defeat the devil with the power of friendship, which is quite fitting because cats are demons themselves. The voice acting was great, it was silky smooth, and there was a really good mix of slower, gentle storytelling, and then the more thrilling action towards the end where the cats fight back. This was a good episode. This was a certified banger. I think so. So anyway, take a look. We've got 3 GOATs up here at the top. Zima Blue, The Very Pulse of the Machine, and Gibbero. What do you think about that? I think this is a pretty fair rating. I guess we can see most of the episodes, they fall in that alright, good stuff spot. But I think we have a decent number of certified bangers in Love, Death, and Robots. And I think that's why people keep coming back. Anyway, that's all for me. I know I was yapping. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around through the whole video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I really appreciate it. I love to, see what you guys think in the comments. Was I talking absolute nonsense? Did what I say, was it warranted? Did it make sense? Who knows, man? I'm just a guy on the internet, but I want to hear what you guys think. So, and anyway, I'll see you guys soon.